Welcome to the Real Estate Rundown. We are coming at you with breaking news. So the Department of Justice has filed a statement of interest in the Sitzer-Burnett case, and the final settlement approval is set for today at 1:30 p.m. Missouri time. With the recent statement of interest filed by the Department of Justice, will the judge sign off on the settlement, or could there be just scuttlebugs that cause it all to blow up? It is too soon to tell. We'll know here in a couple hours, but let's talk through the recent happenings. And I believe, Jason, you found it Sunday evening.
Yeah, someone tweeted it out really right when it came out. I mean, it came out Sunday evening, so it was like, what happened? What's going on? Why did they wait till the last minute, 2 days before? And then they're like, oh, let's put something out here. Let's throw a wrench in it. So it's definitely interesting. I read it really quickly, and I didn't read it all, actually, but just read the highlights. But it's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy that the DOJ decided to do that.
At the last minute.
That's a track record for always, right? They always try to do stuff, even during holidays when no one's paying attention.
Yep. Is this just like a DOJ flex, though? Like, hey, we're the DOJ and we get to do whatever we want, and they'll end up signing off on it.
Well, the attorney general is getting changed here, right? I mean, they just Trump. Sorry, Trump.
Yes, the attorney general will change.
President-elect.
Kind of like let's back up though. First, let's go through what their objections or their statement was.
Their last minute objections.
Yeah. Well, they were more just like concerns. So here are the concerns. And from what I could tell, there were really two concerns. One of the concerns was, hey, even if the court grants this approval, basically this doesn't preclude the Department of Justice from going after NAR for antitrust. So essentially, like, you're not
out of the woods yet.
You're not out of the weeds.
You can do whatever you want, but we can get you again.
Yes, you do, you boo.
Which is kind of nasty when you, right? Like,
I mean, that's government overreach, right? It's like, hey, you do.
Well, and the DOJ has had a long-standing angst against NAR. I mean, they've kind of been going after them for decades and trying to unravel this association. I at least that's my opinion. And if you look back over the decades, they've constantly been a force. Okay, so that was kind of the first thing. The second thing, which to me I was just floored when I read this. So DOJ took particular interest with our clause that now says that buyers must sign a written agreement before even touring a home.
Yeah, but there's objections to that, right? Saying like it's
that it can hurt buyers.
Yeah.
Well, what do they? I mean, we were saying that all along. Like,
that's what I'm saying. By all of this stuff, it's like they're doing
and
these
we're,
things to
and
try
we're
to like
seeing
say
it
that they're
too,
protecting a buyer.
Buyers are paying more commission now.
Yes,
they're coming in with these things. Hey, we want 3% now. We want 3%. The sellers were offering 2.5%. Now sellers are paying 3%.
They're paying more. But is that just is that the market dictating that? Because in many markets we're in a buyer's market now, so
100%.
maybe buyers have more leverage. Okay, here's what the statement of interest said in regards to this. Buyer brokers under the proposed rule may not show a house, even a no obligation showing, without first obtaining a written agreement. Thus, the concerns remain that the broker agreement rule may limit how brokers compete, and there is no record available in the current posture addressing this concern.
I mean, to me, this is like as arbitrary as almost like walking into a store and saying you have to have a pre-agreement to walk into the store. Is you may buy something, right? Like when you really look at it, in its just most simplistic form, if there's a service like that's being rendered, whatever happened to like I don't want to say buyer beware, but like, why do they not have a duty?
And what is it like? How does the DOJ want us to get paid? I guess why don't they tell us like how would they do it?
So that's the interesting thing.
They don't want to say like, hey, you guys should do it this way.
Well, what's really interesting is commission could be completely under attack, and Rob Hahn did a fabulous job of breaking that down, and it's extensive and it was full of legalities, so I'm not going to go into it now. But his thing is that the DOJ could say that even though commission is a totally legal thing, in the circumstances in which we're using it, maybe it won't be. And so there could be a world where potentially commission is off the table when it comes to selling your house.
Forced to
or
be an
buying your
employee
house.
essentially versus 1099? Making that play.
So that's
So-
what you're doing. That's gotcha. Because that's easier to
Govern.
grab taxes.
Yep,
You know, when you're
100%.
W-2 over a 1099. So, and it's more control. Like here.
And especially when it's an industry where there's approximately $100 billion paid out annually.
Yeah,
and if they're missing out at the W-2 on that.
It's an attack on entrepreneurism.
I agreed, brother. Agreed.
That's interesting because I posted a reel yesterday, and those were some of the comments I was getting. Was that this is basically just an attack on entrepreneurs and trying to shut us down.
But will this
Yet
new
again?
administration, will it flip to the other side here in the next month, like where it's just going to be?
Okay, before we head there, though, NAR struck back.
Yes.
And late last night, NAR filed a response to the Department of Justice statement of interest. And NAR said, essentially, hey, you've had since March 15th to review this, DOJ. They said that the court gave them until August 28th to file an objection, and they didn't. And so why are you coming in now at the last hour and filing this? That was one of the things that they...
Flex.
And DOJ made no mention of their tardiness in this statement and filing it so late.
And in a couple hours, the judge is gonna either sign off on it or.
Correct. Yep. So at
Central time,
1:30, I don't know
think
what
that's Central.
is that.
I believe so.
Missouri
I'm not
Central
sure, but I
Time?
believe
Yeah,
so.
it's central. Yeah, because Eastern time's 2 hours.
So they're only an hour ahead right now.
An hour and a half. So we're down to 30 minutes. I know, depending on when this gets out, but dun.
Yeah. Can you imagine if it's all just thrown out or changed? Or I mean, I don't know the scope of what the judge is allowed to do during this hearing. The title of the hearing is a motion for attorney fees and final settlement approval. So that's the title of the hearing.
Here's a thought. What if DOJ holds their position, then NAR objects, and I realize that would be kind of like muddy, but then they try to back out of the whole thing and it just completely reopens.
Well, NAR is fighting hard to have this happen. And you have to remember that what was at stake here was compensation being kind of eradicated in the sense that the seller could pay for the buyer's compensation. And so this settlement was a huge win for the industry because if negotiated in the offer, the seller could still pay for it.
Yeah.
So I don't know that NAR would want to pull out. I mean, it was like Jason's initial thoughts too, but I don't think that they would because this is very favorable for us.
But it's favorable. But then they just said that they can still come after you, and they can still go after.
And that's a pretty big looming dark
So why
cloud.
is it favorable if you're
Interesting though,
you're like,
because
oh, okay.
NAR addressed that in their response as well. And what they said is that they understand, and it is written in the settlement agreement, that just because we're settling, it doesn't preclude that from happening in the future. And some of the kind of the back and forths on that were, okay, you have this class. So we know that there was this class that went after home sellers. Well, there's another lawsuit. It's the home buyers. And the judge has already predetermined that if you are a home seller and you apply to be in this class, you can't then also go and apply to be in the other class because most sellers are buyers and it would just be like double whammy.
It was almost like a double jeopardy kind of situation.
Exactly. So far, Inman reported that there were about 491,000 home sellers that have filed to be a part of the class. So far, they're getting about an average of $913, which is
Wow. Big win.
out of the almost $1 billion being collected.
How much are the attorneys making?
Probably a third. I mean, I
Let's
guess
just do
we may
simple
know.
math
So
on that. And
hundreds of
who knows how
millions.
long it's going to have? Let's say the $913.
And it could go down if more people file to be a part of the class because they have until May.
Wait, shouldn't we
Of
be? We
2025.
should be suing the attorneys for making commission. They made 30%.
Yeah.
Like how isn't that antitrust?
Yeah.
Especially, it's a pretty
mean,
big. But even
Yeah,
think about what we
it's
were
crazy.
talking about. So $913 payout. The average home sale right now is roughly $450 across America. If we take the 0.5% that we're already seeing in difference in commission, that's $2,000+. So that already offsets. You're in the negative. Good job.
Yeah. When you break it down like
One
that.
transaction.
I know. And the fact that you don't have to pay for buyer services when you would sell and then buy at the same time
I know.
under the previous architecture.
This is all great and dandy when the market's really hot or really not hot and it's slower. But once we're in a slower or in a hot market, these buyers are going to get burned.
Yeah,
especially the first time home buyers. If you're going up against 5 other people that have more money than you, you will lose every time. If you
Yeah.
only have 3.5% FHA and that's all you have, you will not get a house. 100% not get a house because you don't have money to do it.
You know, Jay,
Unless they start going to the home sellers directly, and that becomes more mainstream.
to your point, I was looking up.
But even homeowners they're gonna if they have 5 offers, you're gonna take the one that doesn't have any commission. It's 3.5%, no commission.
I will say most sellers, but I will also say that there are plenty of sellers that we've worked with in the past that have chosen the owner occupant, the first time home buyer, the VA buyer for those exact reasons.
Mostly institutional sellers. I mean,
No,
most people
that's
want the
not
money.
That's not always true. I do think that some people care about who ends up buying their home. I really do. So I don't think it's as black and white. I'm gonna have to disagree on that.
Not in the first time home buyer type of homes. Maybe you're talking about a $2 million house. Maybe they'll give up $10,000 to have it be a family.
I don't know.
Or,
What do you guys
Airbnb.
think? What do you guys think? Is it always about the money?
I mean, that's usually the biggest part of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think in certain circumstances, people can get their heart strung, so to speak.
Yes, their heartstrings
Because
pulled.
there's somebody, I've had that exact situation happen. I didn't even tell them to do it. Like one of the wives started like writing a note and then like left it in the kitchen. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. And then all of a sudden the realtor called me and I had told them they want to throw in an offer, like, oh yeah, she got your buyer's note,
You're
and
like,
they want to
Like, what note?
they want to pick your offer because of that. So I think those are very rare circumstances, but yeah, I would say a lot of times it's about the money, because I've also worked with the other side probably more often where I
don't care who buys this house. I just want this.
Want the most.
What
Yeah.
do you think? Do you think it matters? We would love to hear your opinion. Drop it in the comments. I will personally reply to you. But yeah, what do you think? Is it always about the money, or do sometimes sellers choose someone because they have an affinity towards them?
I got one other thing on this. I think that, Jay, you sparked me on this when you were talking about this before with the home buyer. So I was looking up some like facts, like NAR stuff for my coaching call yesterday. And it said like in, a lot of normal markets that at times as much as 40% of the buyers are first time home buyers. Mm-hmm. Right. And so now it's super compressed because of rates and everything else. And so I'm thinking to myself, based on what you just said, when it goes back, are we actually going to shoot ourselves in the foot in a quote unquote hot market, because those buyers won't be able to afford, won't be able to do things? We're just creating a more expensive environment, and therefore are we removing?
We're creating an environment for institutional buyers to beat out all the first time home buyers, because they're going to be like, hey, yeah, we'll pay your commission and we're paying cash.
But what we all know to be true is that the institutional buyer isn't the boogeyman everybody thinks it is. Like they own such a small portion of the housing stock. And
we're in a different market. Maybe.
Yeah, in a different market.
Yeah.
All right, so DOJ files their statement of interest. NAR replies to the statement of interest. Hearing is set for today at 1:30. Let's talk the future. Let's say the settlement gets approved, it gets signed, and we head into 2025. We have a change in the administration, which is also going to bring in a change in the Attorney General. Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about what we think the new administration may be like to work with for NAR.
Well, we were looking at back in 2019, the president-elect was talking at the National Association of Realtors.
Yes.
And he started off being like, yeah, I feel like at home here, realtors, because he's in real estate. He's a real estate guy, so.
Play on the word home, probably, yeah.
So, I mean, he seems like he would be more, he obviously, it's more entrepreneurialism, he respects that.
He's a total entrepreneur.
His roots are in real estate, although the roots are probably deep into commercial and development. So it's a completely different ballgame. How do you feel commercial realtors view residential realtors?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think,
or commercial real estate agents, because they're probably not realtors.
Yeah,
they think they're new. They're
a lot of them think.
Yeah,
I know a couple of good commercial real estate guys, and predominantly they think they're not very great.
So let's just cut to the chase and be honest. So what we know about some commercial real estate agents, not all of them,
Yes.
but some of them maybe look a little down on realtors,
traditional
resi realtors,
You're
because maybe
residential.
yes,
I'm commercial.
because maybe we're not as smart or,
Yeah,
or
there's a-
educated or what. I don't know why.
Yeah, I
but-
think that a lot of them, I mean, there's a massive math equation to
It's
it.
a good
and
old
not a-
boys club. The commercial.
It is, and not only that, the other thing is I think that it's a non-emotional transaction. The overwhelming majority of them, right? It's just it's a path is math type decision where resi everything, 90% of it is emotional, right? And I think that kind of gets played into that decision and being able to articulate why this is a good deal, why this makes sense for that need. I mean, of course, I think it's still a needs and wants based on the client that they have to adhere to.
Yeah, selling a building is different than selling
Yes.
a house.
100%. And so
Yes.
the level of skill and business acumen that you
Yes.
need to sell the building may be a little bit
It's higher.
higher
That's way different.
than being a resi realtor.
Well, I mean, I think there's probably whatever you grow up in, right? I'm sure there's lots of people that they grow up around it, or it's or they have a mentor and they start somewhere.
So I guess I'm just trying to think from that
Whereas a realtor
perspective.
can really just go to the school, get 90 hours, and be selling a house next week.
Yeah. We're armed and dangerous.
Yes.
Very
Where commercial,
dangerous.
you're probably not going to go.
Oh, you're ready to put in an offer?
Get your
Great. Let me go
license
talk to my
and
broker
start.
how I fill out this contract.
Yeah. Yes.
I guess I should probably read it.
Just kidding, y'all. We love you.
Yeah, no. Wait, hey,
I mean, but a
we were
commercial-
there too. I mean,
Not
Commercial
100%.
agent can
How we
do like a
started.
small lease. I mean, but not a big building.
okay, so maybe the sentiment for somebody who's predominantly in the commercial development, industrial, that sort of realm looks a little bit differently on this realm.
Agreed.
I don't know. I mean, I know that he's a pure advocate for
For
wanting to make,
entrepreneurialism.
and home ownership, right? Talking about future plans for coming up with better systems and processes and prices for new build communities. I mean, so at some level, like somebody's got to sell that.
And getting rid of regulations and stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like like this whole DOJ NAR thing is regulation stuff, but there's also a lot of special interest groups with NAR and stuff. So it's just kind of like,
Yeah, I remember looking, and NAR was like the #1 trade association for dollars spent on lobbying. I mean, it's like insane, right?
Didn't they spend some like really crazy stupid things? Like what were they? They were paying people for.
Yeah, there was a scandal that just the New York Times just did an expose on NAR saying that like we were lavishly spending, compensating former executives that no longer even work at NAR. They're being paid consulting fees of like $225,000, like in perpetuity.
Funneling money, pretty much.
Tickets to the opera, pet sitting for the former CEO, like all this crazy crap. So lavishly spending our dues, essentially. Okay, so all right. We also I dug pretty deep last night into Pam Bondi because she'll be our new attorney general, and trying to see what kind of her psyche is around real estate. So I'm like trying to find out, any family members that are realtors? Does she have a real estate background? Has she had any involvement in this space? I couldn't find nothing, like nothing.
Nothing, huh?
No. So if you know anything about Pam Bondi and her relations in regards to realtors,
Even if I just saw her
I'd love to-
picture, I
love
would
to know
think, and she had a little dog with her, I'd think she was a realtor.
I did think she was a realtor when I first Googled her name. It came up
She
with
was-
like her profile.
she was holding a
She
little
totally
dog. She
looks
was
like
totally-
a realtor. No, seriously, she does. You are not wrong on that. So how's her sentiment going to be on NAR, on the industry, on all of this? And then Keith, you were talking about eradicating like regulation and that sort of thing. So how does that play in? How does Doge, or whatever we're going to call it, play into something like NAR?
They call it Doge.
Well, we got CFPB, right? So like would Doge be going after that maybe? Because CFPB is like, aren't they only funded by their fines? So
They're self-funded.
So they're self-funded, so they have to actually find people to actually stay
Yep.
alive.
The only way they run is get into that pocket.
Yeah. So they're
Yeah,
they're banking on people doing illegal things.
Yeah.
Or Yeah, whatever their term is.
Violations.
Going outside of, violation.
So they got to have some gray area
Not
out
maybe
there
illegal.
so they can snap out some money, you know?
So not all authority plays out that way. I will say on the way to the office this morning, we got pulled over.
Yes, I did.
Jason was
Way to
speeding.
go, Jay.
I
Way to
love
go.
Jason was going
like-
60 and a 45.
6:30 in the morning. There's
I'm curious,
no one around.
before you tell the story, when was the last time you'd been pulled over besides this morning?
Last year around the same time by the same cop.
Yeah, so
you serious?
so cop pulls us over.
What?
So and it was
That's crazy.
early.
I
I
didn't
mean,
expect that answer.
Yeah,
was-
it's 6:30 in
it
the
was
morning.
still
There's
dark
no
out.
one there. It's like he's like
so
you
he
know.
comes up, asks for license and registration, asks if we know why he pulled us over, and Jason was like, I was speeding. And he's like, yeah, you were going 60 and a 45. So he takes license, takes registration, and I look at Jason, I'm like, that is the same cop that pulled us over a year ago, speeding down the same road, but headed the other direction because we were dropping Abby off at school last time. Anyway, so it takes forever. I mean, we're there for like 15 minutes. It felt like forever, and the lights are going, and we pulled into a gas station, and so like people's cars
They're
are
all
pulling up,
staring
they're
at you,
staring
like,
at us.
What'd you do?
Yeah, like criminals.
That's a nice car, drug dealer.
Yeah, that's it.
So he only gave us a warning.
Yeah, it's surprising. I'm looking in the rear mirror and he's got his like typewriter out and his printer. Like, it's crazy how
I'm
much
getting
stuff they have.
busted.
It was like a
I see it comes
motorcycle
out,
cop,
I'm like, oh.
and he even had a printer. He like printed out a citation. It was a warning.
He's like, I only give tickets at 16 miles an hour over, and you were only going 15 miles an hour and over. So here's
That's what he
warning.
said?
Yeah.
I'm like,
So like not all authority is bad. So I feel like you go
Like,
so
okay.
dark on intentions so quick, and then I'm like, we just got pulled over and we're given grace, and so I thought
Yeah.
that was a
well, no,
Cool
I don't see a police officer as I mean, they're authority, but they're not authority.
Correct.
They're not the CFPB.
no. I'm not
I
saying
mean,
they
technically,
are,
they're
but-
what is that? A constable on patrol, right? Is what
Yeah.
the acronym is.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what it?
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Constable on patrol, I believe.
I
Somebody, I'm sure, will fact check me, but
I was
I'm rather
today
sure.
years old when I learned what the acronym for the
Yeah,
cop
so
is.
Queen Creek PD, you're good guys. Wasn't a jerk. Was a nice guy.
Yeah, he was a really nice guy.
most
I-
cops or
But,
I
here-
know. Or
but I
awesome.
wasn't a jerk either. So I didn't say. I don't know
Yeah.
why. What are you calling? What are you
Yeah, you were
stopping me
honest.
for?
I was
Huh?
speeding.
Yeah, I was speeding. I
No,
knew-
bro,
I knew it
what-
was
what'd you
'cause
pull me over
When I
for?
saw him, I hit my brake. I was like, oh shit.
And you said, "Oh shit."
But it's 6:30 in the morning, and there's like no one around me. So
Yeah.
and he's lasering at 6:30 in the morning. Like, what are you doing?
It's a great time. Great
Yeah.
time to catch speeders.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. Need some busy
Uh,
work.
So what's Doge, or the Department of Government Efficiency? How are they going to feel about all this? I mean, part of me, okay,
I don't know. I mean, just the fact that all this is coming into an existence so freaking quick. I mean, if we were to have this conversation 6 months ago, we wouldn't even have known what that term even existed. I don't even know if it did.
we would still think it was a meme
So
coin.
I'm still trying. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
love
it still
that.
is
And-
a
I know, I
coin.
love it. I love how that worked out.
I don't know. I'm still trying to wrap my brain around it. It's a very interesting time to be alive.
Well, by
It is.
2026, it is by July 4th, 2026. Doge is supposed to completely be gone. Like they're saying that
I didn't hear that.
the Department of Government Efficiency is the only department that will be created that has an end date, and the end date is July 4th, 2026. So they're going to
18
come in,
months, essentially.
basically take out
Wreak havoc.
wreak havoc in the government, and by July 4th, 2026, Doge will end, and everyone will be fired, and
So
it'll end.
Doge
The only-
is the new
Lay the
draining the
frameworks.
swamp.
They're saying it's the only government entity that will be created that also has an end date, and he said they were saying that every government entity should have an end date if it's created. 'Cause it's,
I don't
right now
disagree
they
when you think
build
about it.
something and it's then it's in perpetuity.
In perpetuity. That's a tough one.
In perpetuity.
So yeah, one of our guys here, Jake, he has a degree in sociology, and he was telling us that the only thing he remembers from his sociology degree is that, corporations, governments, anything that's built over time will then only cease to exist to sustain itself.
Yep.
And so I'm with you on that. When you have these bureaucracies that don't die.
It's unfortunate, right? Like a lot of times these things are created in goodwill and good faith, but then I need to self-sustain, so let me go ahead and just funnel money. Oh, this budgeting for this hammer that we need is $1,500.
Yep.
Insane.
I mean, joking, but hopefully we all get the point.
Well, so
And not joking.
part of me wonders if the minds of the Elon Musk and Vivek that are running this are going to look at the realtor community and maybe think that, as Keith mentioned earlier, buyers and sellers can just come together peer to peer and transact.
Software dudes.
But here's the problem.
So you wonder.
But we were just talking about that. It's an emotional
Yes.
experience.
Very.
When you get a seller and a buyer together, it's great when they all see
Disaster.
the house and yes, it's the house they
Sometimes.
want. But man, when there's inspections and there's repairs that need to be done, and seller doesn't think
Pride
that
and ego.
That's when all
buyer
hell
has
breaks
this
loose.
expectation that this house needs to be perfect, and seller has this expectation that hey, I've already put a bunch of stuff into this house, and
It's
then
fine,
and then
it
they
works.
then they go at each other, and the the deal blows up.
Okay, perfect
A
example.
lot of agents keep the deal together
100%.
by
100%.
yeah.
So here's a perfect example of a home seller that has a realtor and is taking their situation to Reddit for advice, even despite having the realtor. Let me read it for you. Hi all, my family is selling our house currently. We have 2 offers and the realtor and my ex-stepmom are pushing for the lower one. I was hoping someone could possibly explain this to me. Our house was listed at $520. We have a cash offer for $540 and a financed offer for $600. The realtor and my ex-stepmom are heavily pushing for the $540 offer because it's cash and will close quickly. The $540 was originally $515, but they came up when they saw we had a $600,000 offer. The $600,000 offer was originally $560, but they came up when they found out we had multiple families looking at the house. The problem I'm having is the realtor is convinced the 600,000 people are going to go back to $560 after their inspection, which has to be done because they need insurance on the house. We would have to pay anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000 to fix inspection issues, which if they go down would put us at the $540 cash as the end result. The cash people don't need insurance because they're offering cash. I don't understand why not go for $600,000 and then if they end up going to $560 after inspection, just go back to the $540. Can someone please help me understand what is the better option? I thought this would be a great one for you, Keith.
Yeah,
Well,
this is pretty straightforward.
I mean, I understand the circumstance and the situation, but there's so much missing information there.
Yes.
What's
yeah.
the condition of the house? How are
Yeah.
they coming up
What's
with
the
the
comps?
conclusion
That's the
that
big one.
should they need to put 15 to 20K to fix a house during the inspection? It's like, damn, is the house it's not in good shape?
Yeah.
Because that seems extreme to me. I mean, I don't know. That's tough.
Well, in the financed offer at 600, will it appraise?
Right.
They didn't talk
That's
about that.
so that to me would be a wild card.
That
That would be the biggest
That-
question.
that was my
That's
other
the governing
question.
dynamic.
Are
Like,
they-
the agent needs to be like, hey, will your house appraise at 600,000?
Well,
Then you can start
but
reverse
here's-
engineering.
Here's also another thing. Are they putting only 5% down, or are they putting 25% or 30% down? Because an appraisal is a lot different when someone's putting 30% down than compared to 5% down. A lot of times they just get, it's a drive-by appraisal. Yep, it's good to go. You're putting 30% down, so that's what, $150,000.
30% on 600 is 180.
$180,000. So that there's not much risk. But if you're only putting 5% down, there's a lot more risk for that lender.
Yep.
So there's another question.
Well, not only that, if the house does not appraise, right, and they're only putting 5% down, and and let's say it doesn't appraise by 10 grand, they probably don't have the difference to cover it. Where, for example, if they're putting 30% down, like you said, and the house appraises short, they have the cash to cover the difference.
Well,
it's just a
maybe.
ratio game.
Yeah.
That's a negotiation unless you have
Well, they
that
just go from 30% to
pre-negotiated up
25%
front. Yeah,
down.
but there's no guarantee on that. That buyer can be like, no, not happening. And then now the seller goes, now I got to make a decision. Do I lose
Agreed.
the buyer? And they walk.
Agreed.
But if they did, like you guys are talking about, right, there's way too much missing information here. But I would definitely much further investigate that 600K buyer, because on the surface, it sounds like the better option.
It's a lot more not to really look into it.
Yep.
Okay, so
But
let's.
if they're
60K
banking, if
more.
those 600,000, a lot of times these people will go for the moon to try to just get the deal.
Yes.
Right.
And then when it comes down to appraisal, right when they're supposed to close, the appraisal comes in low, and then the seller has to the seller's like, they either have to dump it and go back on the market, or they got to lower the price and so a lot of buyers, the buyer's agents will say, hey, this is a strategy. It's probably not going to appraise for this, so let's just put it way up here and wait for the appraisal and then renegotiate then. You got to think about that, and this is why agents are there to help buyers and sellers.
Yes,
And they
that
can
was
even-
kind
they
of
can
the
even
point
waive
of
the
the
appraisal
story.
contingency
Yeah.
to a point, but then to what you were talking about before, it's $600,000.
You can
if
waive
they're
it, but if they don't have the
10%.
money,
Exactly.
Okay, let's roundtable what we would do, knowing what we know. You don't get to ask other questions. You just have to make a decision on what you know. Elliot, what would you do?
I would advise them to counter the $600,000 one by, again, I would like to know how much the money they're putting down, but I would say, hey, counter the $600,000, waive the appraisal contingency to at least 10%, that 540 or more that they're going to, so you're not shooting yourself in the foot, getting the same deal. But then, of course, that will also flush out if they have the cash to be able to do it.
Okay, Keith, what would you do?
Most homeowners aren't going to do this, but as I would be telling the realtor that you need to call the lender and basically grill the heck out of them, and make sure they have all their financials, that do they have cash reserves, and then are they realistically qualified to the 600K? Because if they probably didn't provide a pre-qualification to 600K unless they gave that to them with an updated offer. And if all that checks out, then, along with what Elliot said too, putting in some contingencies to see if they're serious or curious. And then that's what I'd go for. But if that doesn't check out, 100% go with the cash deal. There's more certainty in it.
Jason.
I would look to see if there's comps. If there was no comps, then I would probably counter or try to get the cash offer to come up to like 565 or 570 or something like that to kind of meet in the middle.
So this is why you need realtors. We just heard from 3 of them. They all had a little bit of a different take. And then ultimately the seller is going to take your advice and maybe go to Reddit and get more advice and then make a decision. That being said, it is Thanksgiving, and we just want to wish all of you a wonderful, happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much for being a valued listener of our podcast or watcher. Maybe you're watching this on YouTube. We appreciate you. Thanks so much. And hey, if you're not already subscribed, do us a solid and subscribe, like this podcast, and drop us a comment. We'd love to hear from you.
Happy Thanksgiving.